Yeah, what not to expect and what to expect. So, but a small community able to do their shit. Here we are. Here we are. Last community I was in, we only had 50 people. So I started out as a volunteer fireman and then found out that job was too hard. So as soon as the job opened up on the board of directors, I took that.
Where were you? There was only 50 people.
Up in Yuba County, on the Yuba, Nevada County line up there. The film called Clarksville. Oh, yeah. Who do you work with?
Aaron, I work down in the Bay Area, down in Marin County through Nevada Fire District.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I heard this. It's on the calendar.
Fire District?
Nevada,
Fire District. Okay.
Nevada, NOV, we're just on the northern end of Marin County.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that sounds like a pretty nice place to live.
Oh, here.
I sure.
Welcome.
State of the world.
Just
Good. How are you doing? I haven't seen you for a while.
Been busy with work.
Yeah. Same old, same old.
Same old, same old. Extra shifts, but I want to work nights.
John.
Hey, Katie, Jack.
Hey, welcome up, John. Good to see you.
Sorry to keep you waiting.
You haven't been sworn in. You guys sit over there.
Oh.
Oh, Katie, you're such a stickler. Really?
That was our young.
You're actually probably, I think that's kind of the customary thing.
I'll wait for Dave to, so we'll get started.
Well, she.
Yeah. Not pretty.
You should jump in and check. Oh, you're talking serious, because that's the device that's actually.
Cautious.
90's been here for.
They well, damage.
Really have to sit over there.
Oh.
And sit up here, Katie. He went and sat out there. She was, I was kidding. She was kidding.
Oh.
Was like, I didn't do this. All right, I think we are ready to reconvene. This is the
Recording in progress.
Trinidad City Council meeting November 12th. We normally have it on Tuesday, but because of Veterans Day, we moved it out one day. Coming back from closed session, we have nothing to report. What I would like to do is start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank Thank you very much. And then the next item is approval of tonight's agenda. This is approving the regular flow of the agenda and the topics on the main agenda. We're not yet to consent. Any questions from the council? Any questions or comments from members of the public about tonight's agenda? All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council for a motion.
That we approve the agenda as set forth.
Okay, sorry, is that a second? Katie seconded. All those in favor? Aye. And John is not voting yet, but will be soon, so we'll get back to that. All right, approval of the minutes from October 14th. Any questions or comments from the council? Minutes from the 14th of October. Okay. Any questions or comments from members of the public or any corrections to the October 14th minutes? Great. Okay, back to the council. I'll go ahead and move to approve the October 14th, 2025 minutes. Second. And there's a second from Katie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so passes unanimously. So next up is the council reports and committee assignments.
Need to pledge him in, please.
We are going to do that as our first agenda item, I think. Is that correct, Gabe?
What was
We're
that?
going to swear John in as our first agenda item this evening. Is that correct?
Yes, under the discussion.
So we'll go ahead then with,
Well, no, but we're going to talk about committees and who's listed on committees.
yeah, we're going to talk about that in our first agenda item. What we're doing right now, guys, is just our normal report out. So of any committee meetings that you've attended, do you want to start that?
Yeah, I don't have anything to report at this time. Yeah.
Okay. Bryce, do you have anything to report?
Yes, at the October 16th, 2025 HCOG meeting. Took some action to approve amendment to the Blue Lake project that had been approved and allocated previously. There were some change of circumstances that Blue Lake needed to jockey some money around here and there. So HCOG granted permission for them to do that. We also selected a consultant for the executive director to enter into negotiations to provide professional service for a comprehensive transit planning project document that's part of the ordinary planning function of the HCOG group. And we've also discussed the STIP/RTIP process, which is a process that identifies local transportation projects for funding and prioritizes them forth. Tinkered around with that a little. Nothing particularly germane to the city of Trinidad. So that's what we did in October.
Great, thank you. Katie, do you have anything?
With great embarrassment, I have to say I left my notes at home. I ran out of the house and I'll be darned if I can remember enough to be cogent. If the council will allow, I'll report next month.
Absolutely.
Dick.
Yes, no problem.
Thank you.
No problem at all. And I just have a really short one. We did an October 26th community emergency response team or block party. Had a really good turnout. I think we had 40 to 50 attendees, and the presentations covered emergency preparedness and also like go bag essentials and things. I would say most people stayed for the full 3 hours, and I wanted to thank Petty's for pizza and Murphy's for cider and cups, and the city of Trinidad for snacks. So we had a good support from the community. So that was great. We're hoping to do a 3-day training to get more CERT members sometime in 2026. So I'll keep you guys posted. And then I have one this is not really a committee report out, but a number of people have mentioned to me that with the SNAP benefits, you know, what the program formerly known as food stamps, with the benefits kind of up in the air, we do have a number of folks in the greater Trinidad area that are experiencing food scarcity. So I just wanted to remind everyone that the Lions Club does their food pantry the third Wednesday of every month from 10:30 to 12:30 here in the town hall. And Food for People brings fresh produce over by the library the first Tuesday of the month from 10 to noon, and that's at the Trinidad Library. So anybody who's, you know, online or watching this after the fact who's experiencing, you know, food shortages this month or any other month, we do have programs available. If you want to donate, there are some things, we're really looking for more canned goods, not so much rice and beans, but the team has told me they'd love to see more kind of canned goods. Flip tops are kind of nice, and, you know, kind of snacks, healthy snacks, that kind of thing. And you can just drop them off here in the town hall. Anton will take them and we'll get them distributed. So I wanted to mention that, and I think it's really one of the things I'm hearing is that we've got a lot of folks that don't know that they can come to the town hall, or, you know, that they can get the Food for People distribution. So please help spread the word if you can. So that's what's going on there. And let me just see, are there any questions or comments from the council regarding the committee reports? Nope, I don't have any either. Any questions or comments from members of the public regarding the committee reports? All right, we're quiet tonight. All right, next up is the, I believe we are going to the public safety report before items from the floor, so I'll turn that over to you, Gabe. And I know Lieutenant McCall is not able to join us tonight, so do you want to cover that here, or shall we? Okay.
Yeah, I'll provide just a quick summary, and it has to do with it would be the consent agenda item 2. That's kind of what I'm looking at right now. Just a summary of what Lieutenant McCall typically does. He'll go through the stats that are provided, and every month I go through the stats, and if for anyone who looks at the packet, they'll see that I've highlighted the usually highlighted in yellow, the stats that are shown on these documents. Those are the ones that are happening within the city limits. And I did that as a convenience. I think it was discussed a year or so ago. You know, folks were asking how many of these are actually inside city limits and not. I believe in my staff activity report, I have, that's real quick. I did some quick calculations, and I just added those notes to the activity report under law enforcement. And that's what I'll just reiterate here in a moment, as soon as I can pull that up. Second last page. So public safety report, the call ratio, just so we're all aware, is approximately 3 to 1. I counted them all up, and it looks like 3 outside the city to 1 inside the city. I think that's good data, good information to have when you're looking at all the calls that are reported from this area that the sheriff's office takes in. It's about 3 to 1. The only other data point that I was able to read when I was looking at the notes was there seemed to be a significant increase in call volume that correlates to the first considered rainfall events that we had. So if you look back at those dates and you see that, you know, Trinidad shows up several times in a row where a lot of that yellow highlights happen. I look back at some of the timeline for our weather, and I noticed, you know, that's when we had some first couple of storms. So I think what happens is people come and circulate. You know, they come out of those maybe drier campsites and they end up on the freeway interchange, or, you know, maybe a little closer to the hub.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe those disturbances are what, and a lot of those disturbances that are showing up in our call stats are for the activity occurring. Just
Any correlations to the phases of the moon?
Really good question.
Yeah.
But yeah, just looking at some of the,
Causation.
trying to find some of the rhyme and the reason behind this, I don't know. Seasonally too, things come and go. The density of calls come and go, but that's just what I've noticed in the October.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gabe. Any questions for Gabe on the public safety report out?
I have one question that it says CAD documentation. What does CAD stand for?
That's a
Computer aided
Computer
dispatch.
system. Yeah.
Computer aided dispatch.
We have asked in the past for like a glossary of what some of the different acronyms stand for. And it's been hard for them because they kind of pop out of their computer system. They know what they input, but they don't necessarily know when things pop out what it means sometimes either. So that's been a challenge. Any questions from the public on this public safety discussion? It's a little shorter tonight than usual, but.
I did have one question, if I may. You say that it coincided with the rain and maybe the people came out and went under. How can you tell that from what you're reading of the report?
Well, I remember specifically, I think it was just after our last council meeting, we had a significant rainstorm event. That was one of our first, where we were preparing storm drains. And I keep track of all these things, my communications with the public works staff on a weekly basis. When we got our first big rains of the year, we're out cleaning the storm drains, cleaning up leaves, cleaning up debris so that these big rains, when they first come through, all the water has a place to go. So I just happen to have those in my mind and I have notes. And then when I look at these stats, I'm like, why does there seem to be a density of calls around that particular time? And also visual observations. Like when I come and go through town, I think right after that event, I noticed quite a few people on the tail end of that storm, which was about three or 4 days system. There was a lot of tents and tarps and things drying out under the freeway, and I'd come under the freeway and it's just very obvious.
You can't tell it from the actual listing.
Can't tell from the stats itself. I just kind of put those two and two together and then reading the codes for calls for disturbances.
Okay, at this time, it's time for items from the floor. So at this time, members of the public can come forward to discuss things that are not appearing on tonight's agenda. Comments are generally limited to about 3 minutes, and please direct your appeals to council as well.
Yeah, hi, I'm Lynn Monmouth, and I've taken it upon myself to stand with Women in Black, which is a vigil, asking for peace on Friday afternoons. And we stand at the crossroads where the freeway entrances come in, and it's like a sixth. You're all totally familiar with them. I have to describe it to you. And I have noticed more near accidents, on that, and the locals understand how to navigate that intersection. But the out-of-towners do not. And I am wondering, is there anything you can do to talk to Caltrans to make that intersection a little bit safer, even if it's putting in those little red tiles, that show a red reflection if you're headed the wrong way up it? Something that's simple. It could be life-saving.
Yeah. Are you talking about the freeway intersections or the
I'm
one?
talking about where the on-ramp and the off-ramp and Scenic Drive
Yeah.
and West Haven Drive. And
Yeah.
it all comes, I think there's 6 different roadways that come together.
Yeah.
And it's a mix.
Yeah.
And it's dangerous.
Yeah, someone mentioned to me the other day, just to log this, that I've noticed it too, that when you come off the freeway, the stop sign coming from West Haven is set back so far that you can't really see if somebody's coming that way, and then people tend to run that sign a bit, or so that was just some other feedback I got. And I think we all agree that that's a difficult intersection. So
I like to call it malfunction junction.
yeah. So thank you for that feedback. Other items from the floor, things that are not on tonight's agenda. Mr. Haken.
Hey, everybody, Aaron Haken. Just 2 things. One, I know it was brought up at a previous meeting, but having gotten around walking in town, being back in town, more of the thermostriping continues to break and fracture that the city just paid a great amount of money for. And so I really encourage us to follow up with the vendor. I'm sure we have, but whoever it is, keep talking to them. It's not lasting the way it should for the money we spent on that. If it's, grant funds,
Okay.
it's
Yeah, I know we followed up once, but it sounds like we need to do it again.
and I mean, I know it's been followed. I don't know if they've come out and prepared work or that kind of stuff. I know there's weather issues now, but maybe getting a commitment back in and fix the work they put in. And then the second thing, just a thank you to all of you sitting up here. 4 of the 5 of you I voted for, didn't get the chance, but if you are silly enough to run again at the next opening, be happy to consider you. I recognize we're all volunteers, planning commission and all the different things. And there's a lot of big stuff facing the city right now that are kind of key issues that relate to the survivability and longevity of this town. And so I asked each of you to represent and think before you take votes, and make sure you're making votes with information and thinking about the long-term impacts of your decisions that go beyond perhaps your lifespan, your tenure in the community even longer, because legitimately the foundation that we build today is going to put things in place that will keep this city surviving long-term. There's a lot of big issues, right? There's fire services, there's water, there's law enforcement, there's financial issues, budget, competitive salaries, all this kind of stuff. So please keep doing the good work you're doing. I get it. I understand it's a pain to go through these packets and have all these details and to make uncomfortable decisions and challenge ourselves with our own perspectives and opinions. But just keep that in mind, that the decision needs to lay the foundation for the future of Trinidad long beyond even any of my time here. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Other items from the floor? Things that are not on tonight's agenda? Looking online, I don't see any hands raised. So, all right, thank you very much for the comments. We are now at tonight's consent agenda. Councilors, any questions or comments regarding tonight's consent?
Well, with regard to the financial statements, I was pleased to note that in the city manager's report, he specifically indicated to us that revenues and expenditures are on track. No anomalies or anything that would be of concern. So that's very helpful to us. Rather than trying to decipher the spreadsheets each time. So I appreciate that. I also would like to call forth further discussion. Third.
Yeah.
Concerning trail budgetary.
All right, so Councilor Kenny would like to pull item number 3. Is there another councilor who would second that?
Actually, Madam Chair, it's not a matter of a motion. In fact, I think it's right here that
We don't need a second.
any council member can request move from the consent agenda. Kind of automatic if somebody requests it. Either right at the top.
I do, yes. It's in 3-point font, so it took a second. Okay, all right, well then, so move. Well, so
But I would move that we approve on the other 2 items that are in the
Yes.
consent agenda.
okay, so I'm going to go to public comment. So the council is considering pulling item number 3 for discussion, but the other 2 items would be approved for consent. Are there any comments from members of the public? Okay, then I'll bring it back to the council for a motion. And I also would be interested in, I was thinking that maybe we'd put it as item number 2 so that we can swear in the new counselor prior to this. Would that be amenable to the council? Okay.
2 or lower.
Yeah, somewhere beyond blank. Okay. All right. Do you want to make a motion? So we don't have.
Not even that we approve the consent.
Yeah, so we don't have to. Okay. All right. So I need so what I need is a motion to approve. Yeah. What I need is a motion to approve the consent with that item pulled. And we've got a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Great. So I think what we would like to do is let's go ahead and maybe where do we want to put that? For now, I'd say we just go ahead and put it as number 2.
That's fine with me. I think it's just the discretion of the chair, so.
Okay. All right, well, let's go ahead and start with 1 and I'll see how I feel. We're done with that. Okay, so item number 1 and discussion action item for tonight is to administer the oath of office and seating of appointed council member John Waskowitz. Welcome, John, and I'll turn it over to staff for the swearing in.
Okay, so thank you, Madam Mayor. I know it's pretty straightforward, and there's nobody here really to share this information. I mean, it's not like we have a big group of people who this information might be of interest to, but it's always good to just be. I've administered this oath so many times, and I've often kind of wondered, like, what exactly am I doing? You know, is it? I've watched Gavin Newsom get sworn in using the same exact oath, right? So I want to just kind of point out that. The purpose and background on this. The authority comes from California Government Code 36507 stating before entering upon his or her duties, each city officer shall take and file with city constitutional purposes for elected and appointed officials of the city of Trinidad to take and subscribe to the oath of office applicable to their positions. All sworn members shall be required to affirm the oath of office expressing commitment and intent to respect constitutional rights in discharging the duties of an elected or appointed official. I think the state of California's oath adds that they will not uprise against their government nor federal government. I think they added that after the insurrection, I believe.
Oh,
But we don't have that. Nonetheless, it is the same oath that all state of California public take. So with that being said, I will be happy to read Mr. Waskowitz. With Mr. Waskowitz, I'll stand up and maybe we'll come, I'll meet you up there in front of the stage and we'll just carry this forward. So a piece of paper there to make this easy and we both can read together. I'll read a first sentence and then you can repeat that sentence. We'll make it really easy, short and sweet. Raise your right hand, please. So I state your name.
I, John Waskowitz,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the state of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the state of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That you will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and state of California.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the state of California.
That you take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
That I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
And that you will faithfully discharge the duties upon which you are about to enter.
And that I will faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations. Welcome aboard.
Thanks. Okay.
I'll send you photos.
So, I'll add one more thing here too. So, Councilmember Breckenridge wanted to point out, and she mentioned this to me, and we discussed this in a phone call, that since Ms. Varela had resigned, the positions that she was appointed, the committees, which I've added in the packet, a list of those committee assignments. You took over as the alternate to that committee. You became primary, and that is to the Redwood Regional Economic Development Corp, REDEC. So with that said, I think if it pleases the council, that we could ask Mr. Waskowitz here, Councilmember Waskowitz, to just assume that position if he's comfortable doing so. Okay, good. And then that list includes 2 of the committees that I think you would be an alternate to the Hazardous Materials Response Authority, HMRA, as Mayor Kelly is the primary.
Primary, yeah.
So the acceptance tonight of this position would then by default accept those two assignments until the next election, which is typically when we reshuffle the deck, so to speak, right?
All right, so I think we'll go ahead and slot in the consent item now because that just seems like logical to just go ahead. And so this then becomes item number 2, which is it was entitled Budget Amendment to Shift Trail Maintenance Funds to Engineering Services to cover the Axel Ingram Memorial Trail Concept Design Update. And so I know you're not prepared with a full staff report, Dave, because this was a consent item, but do you mind just giving us a high level of what this item is? And then we'll go to Councilor Kinney first, since he requested the poll.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I do have some information prepared, and I'll share that with you in a higher level, from a higher level perspective, as you mentioned. So the recommendation summary tonight was, and I'll read the motion, the draft motion was to authorize a budget amendment to shift $10,000 in Public Works Fund 501 trail maintenance, expense code 78130 to engineering expense code 71210 to cover the city's contribution to the Axel Ingram Memorial Trail Realignment Project. So it's a housekeeping action with a project or a task associated with it. So a little bit of the background here says, I'll give a summary. The CDP issued by the city earlier this year to perform maintenance at the foot of the Axel Lindgren Memorial Trail and make it accessible was appealed and upheld by the Coastal Commission in September. As a result, the Coastal Commission established jurisdiction over the project and convened a working group consisting of all stakeholders to find a solution to this complex issue. I've been attending those meetings. A meeting was arranged by the Commission staff following the September hearing to bring everyone together, explain the process, and develop a path forward. And those people involved in that meeting include representatives from the Yurok tribe, their tribal preservation folks. I believe maybe an administrative level person was also included. Myself, our city planner, our city engineer, I believe is a regional director of the North Coast Coastal Conservancy, Michael Bowman, and his some of his staff from the Conservancy also attended, and then the Coastal Commission staff. So it's a pretty comprehensive working group. It was a large invitation issued by the Commission to get everyone at the table to talk about the next steps. Now that the process of the appeal had been upheld by the Commission, it's now in their jurisdiction, and now they are going to handle how this trail phased approach is going to be executed. The meeting was arranged. We had this meeting to develop a path forward, at least a very preliminary meeting. The second meeting was held on October 16th. So the breakout from that original meeting was a technical meeting, and that happened a few weeks later. And the reason is because in that first meeting, it seems like if I had $1 for every time somebody said, well, I'm not an engineer, but, but then maybe we should pile rocks at the bottom to make it a better, secure, erosion proof landing. We're going to spend the money. I'm not an engineer, but, right. So Commission, a breakout smaller meeting that included the engineers, one engineer from the Coastal Commission, City of Trinidad's engineer, Steve Allen, and myself. And who else was there? The Coastal Conservancy representatives. So that meeting with the engineers was a technical staff focus on ways to achieve development of the alternative trail route. The city clarified to the group that the solution proposed in the CDP, I clarified to the group that the only budget available that we have, because everybody kept asking, how much money does the city have to do this? What can you contribute? And I just said, we have a trail maintenance line item, and that includes $10,000. And that's all we have, right? We've spent a lot of money. My council is probably not going to be very excited about giving this group a blank check. We've spent so much money, and here we are today. And all we have is an appeal to show for it. We're back at square one. So, the amount authorized was 10,000 in our current budget for trail maintenance that was adopted in implemented July 1st. So with all the stakeholders now at the table, there's a renewed hope that all parties will come together and pool their resources. The Coastal Commission, with their regulatory expertise and preserving public access and cultural resources as their part in this process. The Conservancy with access to funding. So the Conservancy's contribution is, hey, there's Climate Bond Prop 4 funding that the sooner we move something forward, the sooner we can take this to Michael Bond anyway. The guy we're dealing with, he's like, as soon as I get something from you guys, the sooner I can take it to my board for a project to get funded. Tribal entities to protect and preserve, the oversight of their cultural resources and provide guidance during this process. And the city of Trinidad taking the first step by developing a conceptual preliminary design of how this new traditional trail outlet will be fortified and resilient as possible against ocean erosion. So the design concept put forward by Steve Allen, our engineer, would be used to further the group's progress towards meeting benchmark timelines to gather input during GDG consultations, full design plans for permitting, and application to the Conservancy for funding. Once we found out that we learned that the commission has finally scheduled a meeting on December 10th for their first GDG about this topic, specifically with the York tribe. That's when we saw the wheels turning. And that's in the meeting they expressed to us as the group. They said if we had something we could see on paper, we could go to these GDG meetings. Otherwise, we're just spinning our wheels conceptually, and everybody's just trying to envision what this is going to look like. The Conservancy representative said, we're not going to fund an imaginary concept in our minds. We need to see something on paper. Let's get this rolling. Anyway, long story short, the consequence of the proposed action tonight is that the budget allocated for this trail maintenance will be exhausted for the remainder of the fiscal year. Trail maintenance expenses in this category include material supplies, contracted services to perform specific tasks. It does not include labor from public works staff to maintain vegetation on the trails. That funding source, wages, will remain healthy for the year. So it's not like that we're not going to be able to maintain our trails. We just don't have those specific monies for buying materials, buying this and that we might need. Now, since the city has experienced significant challenges garnering support from stakeholders to perform the maintenance, which is why this budget has not been exhausted for many years. If you look back at our budget for this line item, with the exception of the money that we spent to protect the cultural resources that were exposed down there during our last, 2 years ago or more, we generally do not spend this money. It sits there unspent and it kind of rolls into the next budget year. And we keep getting asked, why are we not spending the money on trail maintenance? Well, because we have a lot of tribal interest and objection to what the city wants to do on a regular basis. So we have that money earmarked in case we want to use it, in case we can use it. And from time to time, we will use it on places like Trinidad Head or some gravel places that we do have a path forward for maintenance. But these other trails are basically, as you all know, are sitting here idle and disrepair. So that money is used. So anyway, to conclude with that in consideration, the expense is justifiable, I believe, for the reasons described. With the hope that this investment will lead to a resolution that can project. And that, of course, is based on a timeline that I've been receiving from this working group saying, hey, go one step forward. This is what we're going to do. I'll come back over to the council.
All right. Councilor, we should start.
Okay, thank you.
Well, let's see. Let's start by reviewing a little bit of history about the ALNT. the actual Lakeland Memorial Trail. It was put in I believe, 1997. Part of the settlement of a lawsuit between the city and John Frame of Wagner Street, who objected to people walking by his house, get down to. So the Yurok tribe helped design and build that trail in service till what, a couple of years ago?
It's been 3 years, I
Three-
think now.
3 years.
I think the storm was 3 years ago.
Right.
In
When the
November,
trail was
December.
closed because of significant erosion that took place that winter down at the bottom. And so the years went by, and fairly recently the city decided that we need, because part of the settlement that created the trail required that it be designated as the primary route, take most of the foot traffic and relieve the other two trails that also lead to the same place. But the city council eventually decided that enough time had passed with no reopening of the ALAT. So we, through our planning commission, approved a development permit to reinstall the cable steps that had pretty much always been part of the last 15 feet or so of the trail. And they had been basically destroyed by the wave action from the storms over the years. The Dry Ancestral Society filed an appeal on Commission's action. And the city council rejected that appeal because they had not they had not attended the planning commission meeting, raised that objection at that level, which is something that's always required in administrative processes. The Coastal Commission found that their appeal raised a substantial issue, and so they assumed jurisdiction over the project. And that's essentially where it stands now. And put it as charitably as possible to the commission, I think they did the city a great disservice by finding a substantial issue there when it is so apparent that TAS was in procedural default by not starting at the bottom level like everybody else has to do if they want to challenge anything. And so now we're at a point where the commission will eventually hear that appeal and decide the merits of it. And I guess in an effort to forestall the uncertainty or eliminate the uncertainty that comes with that, and for other reasons, that appeal has now been sort of rolled together into a larger settlement potential that exists for the litigation currently pending that has been pending for over 5 years now, probably 6 at least, between the Trinidad Rancheria, the Dry Ancestral Society, the city, the Coastal Commission, and the Coastal Conservancy. So people are now talking about a global settlement that could resolve all the issues in all those various things. What has been suggested as a first step is that the city take the entire budget for our annual trail maintenance and use it to make a drawing of the modifications that would be made to the bottom of the actual Ingram Trail that are preferred by the Dry Ancestral Society as a better route that does not cause as much exposure to potential disturbance of cultural resources in that area down there. And while everyone is in favor of resolving disputes always, and I think we are not necessarily opposed to contributing that $10,000, I think it would be prudent at this point to test the waters a little more. If the parties involved in all these disputes are ready to negotiate in good faith and come to some kind of global settlement. So I think we should condition the contribution of that $10,000, our entire yearly budget, to some kind of agreement being reached. And there's going to be a meeting, I believe he said this Friday. All the parties are going to get together on Zoom and see if they can hash something out. So there could be very little time lost. It's a matter of a few days. In other words, if we agree that if you guys come to an agreement, you have the $10,000, you can get started on the rest of the grant funding process and all that to get the whole thing done. Now, I also think that get a usable picture representation for no money that could be used, that could be presented to the grant funders by the use of Google Earth and a piece of graph paper that shows where the new trail would go. You know, I know we could be accused of holding up the whole process, the whole settlement process. But if there's just no reason in this day and age where grant funding has to be held up because a better picture could be obtained by spending more money. It's a concept, slightly rerouting the bottom of the trail. And there's also the point that if settlement negotiations fail, well, the Coastal Commission is still eventually going to have a de novo hearing on the merits of the appeal. And if at that point they decide that this trail has been closed long enough, we need to get it reopened again, because that is one of our, if not the most important aspect of the reason there is a Coastal Commission, is to promote coastal access. They could simply deny the appeal and say, City of Trinidad, go ahead and put your cable steps in place. And incidentally, our long-term plan, well, I say long-term for at least a couple of years, be to make them last longer by pulling them up when a big storm is coming so that they'd be safe. And then when the storm passes, they could be redeployed, assuming that there hasn't been such a substantial washout that it's too much of a cliff, as we had a situation like that for a while, but it resolved itself eventually. So there are lots of things that can still happen that could restore coastal access, and the city would not have to spend its entire annual trail budget on one trail. So I think it's completely reasonable for us to approve the expenditure of that money on the condition that a settlement is actually reached, resolving all these other issues that exist right now concerning trails in Trinidad. That's a summary of my thoughts on this at this point, and I'm more than happy to listen to anyone else's or any member of the public that wants to weigh in.
Let's stay with the council for now, and then I do want to go to a public comment. Does anybody have anything you want to jump in with? Otherwise, I have a couple of thoughts. Jack, do you?
If we deny the $10,000 funds, will our engineers need not get what they need to meet the deadline?
That's a good question. And I think it's a little bit, what's the word? Coincidence that our budget happened to be 10,000 and then they're estimate came in for just a little under 9,000, or right around
A
9,000.
little over,
Little over 9,000 or something.
almost 10.
Almost 10, a little under 10.
Like 99.85.
Yeah, I found that to be quite interesting. After discussing with Steve Allen and what he was proposing, I understood a little bit better about the kind of time it would take. There's going to be GPS coordinates. You know, there was a little bit of a concern that, you know, to get this data, which is what they're intending to do, take a tablet down there and get GPS points, and then they're going to be able to map that out, come back up on land, and then go to the drawing board to create cross sections of what the materials would look like if they were pushed up. Basically, what's happened is that rock down there, that is the preferred landing pad that the traditional trail route is expected to take. There was some earth at the edge of the bluff that led to that rock landing. And after that area being grown over for so many years, I think it was RCAA who we contracted last year while former city manager Eli was here. We had a contract, we threw a couple $1,000s at the crew to go down there after they had repaired the Trinidad head trail steps. And they brought a crew in there and they weed whacked and really kind of macheted their way in and discovered that the earth that they thought was there is now a little bit more eroded, you know, than they originally had thought. So that's when the discussion popped up about, well, maybe this isn't as clean cut of an issue as we thought it was. Now we have to make sure that the earth, after, if we open up some kind of a trail, they were looking at bridges and they were looking at all kinds of different ways to connect to that rock. And this was the result. So back to your question about, you know, will it stall the process? I kind of like what Bryce is saying, like, hey, maybe we can do something a little simpler. First of all, that's a really good question. And I would like to explore that a little bit, if that's what the council is, if that's what we choose. And then the other thing I'd like to say to that is, I think there is more movement now between, and more unity between the Coastal Commission and the Conservancy and the city than I've ever experienced. And, you know, we were surprised at the appeal hearing. I think we had our feelings hurt, you know, a little bit that thing went the direction it did. I think a lot of us here were a little disappointed, but at the same time, the one thing I'll add to this now is that there's a new player, and that new player is representative from the Coastal Conservancy. The prior representative from the Coastal Conservancy had been around for like 20 years. I've known her since, she's been doing that role since I started. There's been a major shift in that program. I'm not going to say that there's full kumbaya moment we're all experiencing here, but with the G2G meetings that the Coastal Commission has scheduled finally, which took a while for them to do, they would like to bring forth something to that meeting that they can share with York Tribe. So there might be a hiccup, but again, they're looking at the phased approach too in this de novo hearing. They're not looking at we're going to go straight for the opening. They're saying we're going to propose a modified phased approach that offers the traditional route, which is, if we remember, the Planning Commission, their approach was the CDP for a phased approach, but using cable steps. So the difference being the traditional route here. So it's not going to happen overnight, but it will delay some of this inertia, I guess you would say, a momentum that is starting to build. So.
Well, I think the more accurate answer is it might delay it. And that's really up to the funders, the people that would be, you know, with the purse strings for the bigger ticket part of the secondary part of it. If they insist on the best drawing money can buy, that's on them. Mm-hmm. You know, if they really want this thing to happen, they can accept, you know, a lower tier visual representation, but certainly with a cell phone and pictures of the alternate route, the rock, like I said, Google Earth. I mean, there's so many tools out there. You know,
I mean, I see that there's some pros and cons. Like the pros, if we move ahead, it moves potentially moves the Axel Ingram Memorial Trail traditional route. It moves it forward, and to Gabe's point, it shows, that we're working with the Coastal Commission and the other folks on this team. And so that's kind of a positive, to kind of keep the momentum going. And it sounds like the Coastal Commission, all the parties except the Tri management team, the Tri Ancestral Society, want us to fund this. So most of the members of this committee or this leadership team, if you will, want us to fund it. But the Tri Ancestral team opposed it. And so they're the folks that appealed the decision to the California Coastal Commission, and they're opposing the city paying for this work. So I find myself kind of coming to a similar position that you have, Bryce, but also for the reasons you mentioned, plus for those reasons, because I think we could use the money elsewhere. And I think this, while I really want to see the Axel Ingram Memorial Trail open, I didn't see any other parties coming to the table willing to fund. And then when we were willing to fund, we're asked not to by some of the key stakeholders, the Tri Ancestral Society, who, in statements said that we were moving too fast, that the city has been dismissive of cultural assets, and has not taken their feedback into consideration. In fact, it seems like the Coastal Commission is saying the same. By accepting the appeal, they basically said that the city of Trinidad is not being considerate in our approach. So to that end, I come to the conclusion that perhaps this is an example where we don't need to be the first ones to the table to fund an initiative. Just for the record, I do want to say that when the city was approached, because there were issues with the trails, we closed both the Parker Creek and the Axel Ingram Memorial Trail out of sensitivity to potential cultural asset exposure, and that measures were put in place to protect with things like the fabric and so forth, to protect from erosion, the erosion fabric, but also to protect the environment down there from both environmental and cultural sensitivity, with that in mind. So I do, I will push back a bit on whether or not we've been sensitive to cultural assets, but my feeling at this point is I'm not sure I'm comfortable with signing up to fund this, given the current, the level of feedback that we're getting from the different members of this committee and the amount that they're willing to kind of put forward to fund this work. If we can find a simpler way, great. But anyway, so I find myself in agreement with Councillor Kinney on this issue. Other thoughts from the council?
If we don't, the donation of $10,000, what happens to this momentum, this global approach? Does somebody else pick up the baton, or do they all just push the meetings?
So the global settlement side of things I see as separate, and I see that as a separate discussion that's happening related to litigation and things that can't be talked about here in public and personally.
Yeah.
I see this group that is led by the California Coastal Commission. Yeah, you mean that?
Yeah.
So the California Coastal Commission, because they took over the appeal, they're leading this team, and it includes members of the city of Trinidad. It includes the Coastal Conservancy and the California Coastal Commission. I guess my feeling is if we don't fund this work, someone else will have to.
But it won't stall the whole thing.
Well, it may stall while they find the money.
Yeah,
but
we don't have a crystal ball.
Yeah.
We can't say for sure what's going to happen.
Yeah, but I mean, if the Tri Ancestral Society who pulled together the GHD plan, I think they spent $30,000 on that. I would also think that they could pull something out of that would be useful, or get GHD to pull something out of that that's useful enough to have just a basic blueprint of where the trail's going to go. But that's my thought. personally on the matter. Other,
Well, my only thoughts are, I was kind of disturbed by the $10,000 bill myself too. I was wondering, can we negotiate that? And a goodwill attempt to say, hey, we're interested in this and we'll throw in $2,000. You guys supply the rest of the money. And as the faith effort to try and show that we're interested in this. But yeah, $10,000 does seem a little high for what's being offered.
yeah. So John basically is saying maybe we co-fund. And what does the council think about saying, we're not going to maybe put in the entire 10, but maybe we're willing to do, say, a quarter of that, or, I think it's open for down the line. We're not closing the door forever anyway. I think what we're just saying is we're not willing to move forward right now. Is that correct? Like, I don't know I'm not sure I would be willing to just close the door and say, I'm never going to want to fund this. I think it's just for right now.
My position is, we can throw the whole 10 in if everybody else steps up and says, you know what, we are going to resolve all these issues that have been festering around trails for 10 years here in Trinidad.
I don't think they'll do it for that amount of money, though, do you?
Well,
I don't think we could make it contingent.
Find out. It provides some incentive.
I think it'll be okay. So contingent on they're having a call, but this Friday, but they won't come to a conclusion, I don't think.
If it were really going to move things along, I'd be okay, but I picture it just disappearing down a rabbit hole.
It sounds like if we gave him 5, Bill would have been 5. So we say we'll give the 2, and hopefully we'll get a $2,000 survey, and use the other 8 for maybe the Van Wyck Trail.
Give me 2, I'll go schedule.
Okay, so let me go to, let's pause with council. You guys can let's mull this over. This is a good time to go to public comment. If there's any public comment, anybody who has some strong feelings about the city funding preliminary plans for ALMT. All right, Ms. Paul, I see your hand raised.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, great.
Great. My video is not working right now, but I'm glad you can hear me. First of all, thank you for continuing to look at this project. It's been on your plate for a very, very, very long time. And it seems like it's always circling back. It just keeps going around and around and around. My question is, you had said that the Shurai Ancestral Society does not want the city to contribute money toward the trail, that $10,000. Is that true?
Well, they don't want us to, I guess maybe a good way to put it is they don't want us to approve this expense tonight. I think they would like the city to help with funding, but they feel that this is moving too fast and that even though they've been in the Coastal Commission meetings, that they don't feel like they've been consulted enough. Does that make sense? So they don't want us to approve it now, but I'm not saying that they wouldn't ever want us to fund. They would want us to help, I think.
Okay. I hear what you're saying, and it's been many years and many meetings that they've been involved in. And so I'm struggling with what parts have they not been involved in to be able to move forward. But thank you for that explanation. I just wanted to know, what their thoughts were about that. So I appreciate your time on this project. I think everybody wants to see it happen. It's just that we can't get started on step 1 and move forward to step 2. So thank you.
Yeah, fair point. Thank you. Other comments? Mr. Hagan, and then I'll watch for everything.
So just thank you. This has been a long-standing challenge for the city, and I became far intimately involved in it during my time on the planning commission, as it was before us repeatedly until we put back before you guys, where I'm happy to say I still believe is the right place for this to be handled. Just a couple thoughts, just kind of global. You know, the city, we decide, you guys decide how we spend our money, right? That's the decision of the city council with input from other people, stakeholders, and that kind of stuff. But ultimately, the decision of where we spend money, the rest of the council. You know, it might be possible to do a drawing for less money. I'm not sure it's going to provide the data that everyone will have comfortable, the same comfort level going forward. I don't know exactly what GHD's GPS data will provide, but it sounds like, you know, firsthand, when Gabe was sharing, we went out there and we cut vegetation, determined that the conditions underneath the vegetation were not as we anticipated, and therefore it was like, ooh, what we thought we could do, we couldn't do. So, as I've said before, others, is without good, solid data, right? We can't make informed decisions, right? We're making them in a vacuum. I don't think, my personal opinion, I don't think there's going to be a point where everybody's in agreement about what the plan is proceeding, and how to proceed with this, just based on my history with this project and hearing the longer history. So, you know, I'm respectful of people feeling, so it sounds like the TS doesn't feel like they've been involved to the degree that they would like. And I absolutely respect that, but there's, you know, process and opportunities and that kind of stuff. And I'm not privy to what's been discussed so far, so I don't know what's going on with that. But what I did hear tonight is that this has now been taken kind of out of the city's area of responsibility to coordinate and run this project. And there's somebody else in charge of it now. And one of the hardest things for me to do when things like that happen is to kind of release the history of the past and move forward in a spirit of cooperation and expending funds, which are meager, and we don't have enough money to go around in the city, right? There's a lot of things that we want to have that we don't have already. But if this new working group is saying this is a tool that will help them advance toward a solution on this, I'm worried that it might be a little bit short-sighted to not take any action tonight. So I don't know if your hybrid suggestion to fund part of it, to say, you know, take a resolution tonight, yes, we're interested in cost sharing on this, but we can't deplete our entire supplies budget, you know, material budget for rock and gravel. And you know, that's what it sounds like I heard Gabe, right, is what's being moved. It's not the entire trails budget. It's like we have nothing left for trails. That's not the case. We have nothing left to buy gravel and railroad ties and that kind of stuff without moving money from somewhere else. So there is a way to keep maintaining our trails. So I don't know. I just think that perhaps, you know, something, a yes vote or some kind of a gesture would politically maybe be a good move for the council to consider tonight. So that way there's no risk of perception of the city now becoming an obstructionist party in this process. Because I certainly don't want that to be the case, because I've heard of these most recent things. This is the most progress I've seen and collective kind of harmony and cohesion on a solution going forward. So I just encourage you to think about that and try and seize that opportunity while balancing your concerns as well. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Other comments? So like you still have your hand up, was I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay.
I do have one more comment. Thank you. Just tagging on that. I believe in all the meetings that I've gone to on this matter, it's always been stated, and I think it was the previous city manager always had said there was $10,000 for this project, and or there was $10,000 in this line item. So I think there's an assumption by many that there's $10,000 for that project. So just wanted to let you know that. And I also think it would be a good step to have some kind of contribution to say we are invested in this. We do want to have this happen. So make a contribution to it, and let's see who else can step up and try to also make a contribution so it can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to bring it back to the council. So we've heard, you know, comments and questions and some suggestions from Planning Commission members of the public. I guess I'm kind of in the camp of maybe we are willing to put skin in the game. Sorry, maybe we're willing to put skin in the game, but we are not willing to fund the whole 10,000. So I guess I could see a motion for half of that. And then asking the Conservancy and the Coastal Commission. So I guess I'll make a motion that the city, that we split the difference. And we say that we're willing to put 5,000 in of our money at this time, expecting that there'll be some cost sharing from the other groups, and that all parties, whether that's the Shrine Ancestral Society, the Yurok Tribe, the Rancheria, and other key stakeholders, the city of Trinidad, that all stakeholders will be, all plans will be vetted through this committee run by the Coastal Commission. So it's a two-parter. We put in 5,000, and with the understanding the Coastal Commission makes sure that plans are vetted.
Make sure that what?
That the plans are vetted, that they're fully vetted with the parties.
The drawings?
Yeah, so the plan to do this work, to go out and get this drawing made, that the people on the committee all are aware and understand tasks specifically, is consulted. Everybody's consulted by the Coastal Commission. And then, so they need to sign off, basically all of them.
Sign off.
Sign off on
We like the drawing.
that we want to spend this money on this project, right? So that the group who led by the Coastal Commission says, okay, we want to spend, let's say 15,000 or 10,000 or whatever it is. The city of Trinidad will put in 5. We'll find the funding for the others to do this preliminary drawing, this plan. That's just my motion. You guys don't have to second or agree. In fact, if there's no second, it dies on the floor and we can try a different one. So, so I guess okay, John seconds that. Okay, so John is seconding. So does everybody understand what I said? First of all, you understand?
Yeah.
Okay. Then all those in favor.
Let's have further discussion.
You want to have further?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So
I didn't know. I thought so. Just point of order.
Typically, there's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If there's further discussion.
Somebody told me that we're supposed to take a vote. So.
Well, yeah, eventually you have somebody can call for the question.
Yeah.
Anybody's tired of this.
I am always happy to have discussion. So please.
Yeah, so
Councilor Kenny, then Councilor Burke.
I think half is a little too generous.
Okay.
If we're gonna get down to,
Maybe 2,500 or something.
I like John's, 1,000, but 2,500, I guess I could support. But let's think this through. So if that's not enough, if that becomes a deal breaker, the Coastal Commission still has to decide the appeal.
Yeah.
They could still find that interest of the quickest restoration of public access, that they could deny the appeal and allow us to put the table steps there in the interim until this bigger picture of the funding and all that gets worked out. Because that's my concern, is that if it gets rejected, then it's kind of like we're dead in the water. Whereas with my approach, the parties have an incentive to negotiate until they come to a conclusion, and then they get the whole 10,000. So I'm a little reluctant.
Different proposal.
Yeah, that's the approach I think is best. So I'm a
But
little reluctant to let go of that
yeah. Okay.
approach.
So
for that
explain to me just mechanically how that works. So you would say the city of Trinidad agrees to fund the 10,000, but you have to come to an agreement on the global settlement.
Yes,
What you get the money.
yes.
It's been years. It's been decades that's been on the table. I don't think $10,000.
Now the state is pushing it.
It was their idea. They wrote the letter. They
Yeah.
said, these are the terms.
Yeah. And we're getting dangerously.
Yeah, and they
Things we're not supposed to, so.
They can use their good offices to persuade people who may be dragging their feet and reluctant come to agreement.
Okay, so we have, so, yeah, please, and then I want to move us on because it's been about an hour on this, so.
Yeah.
You guys will appreciate that.
Well, initially I felt, no, I don't want to give them $10,000 because it's just going to evaporate into the arguments and nothing will happen. But hearing that we're in a different position with the Coastal Commission, is it? And then hearing Aaron talking about, being supportive of the movement, $10,000 is not a lot of money. And and then hearing Sherry talk about that it's been bandied about, it's become something of an accepted truth that this money is earmarked for that, for the trail, then I would be more in favor of taking the risk and maybe tying it to something like what I'm suggesting, some kind of agreement has to be reached or agreement has to be made or something so that it doesn't just go down a rabbit. We just write the check and then they continue arguing.
Well, yeah, this check is just for the actual Ingram Memorial Trail.
No, I know, I'm not confusing it with anything else, just.
Okay. So I'm going to withdraw my motion, just in the interest of kind of time and I've Councilor Kenny, maybe you try for your motion. It sounds like we have some agreement with that, and then we will just opt in or opt out as.
Well, then I will move that we approve the full 10,000 that's being requested on the condition that the parties first settle the issues involved in both the appeal and the ongoing litigation.
Okay, is there a second to Bryce's motion? Okay, I don't see a second, so I believe that will die on the floor, as they say.
Maybe somebody has suggestions for
Other questions?
I don't think the ongoing, the global agreement's gonna get moved forward. I think we just gotta keep it simpler.
Yeah. What about that tying it to that we'll give you the 10,000 if all of the parties on this committee the Coastal Commission,
the working group.
their working group, thank you. If they all agree that we are going to draw this and this will be a first step and there's actual commitment to that.
But they are agreeing.
I would like that one because we have to get Taz up. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if they can't agree that, yes, we will accept the drawing.
Oh, I see. So you're saying get Taz, if Taz agrees. So you would fund it.
I mean, they want to be recognized that they want to have a voice at the table. I think when we go around them, that's when they get upset. So if we include them and say, we want your feedback, they'll be more wanting to say yes.
So it's sort of an amendment to. Not tied.
I'll amend the motion to say it's tied to condition that the appeal issues get resolved. That would not include the Rancheria or the Yurok tribe as active parties, be the state, city, and the TAS.
When's the de novo hearing scheduled for? Do we know?
It's not
Next 2026, right? Or so we would be.
sometime.
Yeah. So we'd be holding for that.
I just want to make sure I just add, if I just add, I think that this step is part of their strategy to garner further support to lead to a new revised phased approach, which would then be the permit and the de novo hearing. So I'm just reading this through, just trying to get clarity. So if I have, I'm trying to imagine myself delivering this back to the group.
Yeah.
And if I say, if I condition this to tie to the condition that the CDP issues get resolved, they're gonna say, well, that's what we're trying to do. And unless we move something forward.
What could we tie it to that would be concrete?
I keep saying path forward. I keep reminding them that our council is not going to support spending another dime unless they have some evidence that this is going to lead to something, which is our desire to open that trail, to get it opened. And I feel like I've made myself pretty clear on it. So as far as the leverage of the settlement and all that, I want to leave that to this council to determine in Bryce's motion. But I just wanted you to be clear, you know, where what I've experienced. And another thing I'll say real quick is when this concept was brought forward last week and shared with the group, the technical group's direction to our engineer to do this, that's when we heard from Natura, because when they caught wind of that through our agenda, they objected, held this meeting on Monday. They were pretty firm that they did not want to see this go forward, but as we hashed it out for an hour and a half, the meeting concluded, they're not here. So I was worried they were going to be here to object, to write letters saying, don't do this, but I don't know if that's acquiesce or if that's just like they got the information they needed and they're going to support it. But without them here, I think it speaks pretty loudly to that aspect of this discussion of their support, of their vetting, of their part of Cheryl's motion.
Yeah.
And I didn't mean to interrupt, but I'll leave that back to you.
So I hear three different things going on. There's a discussion about making the money contingent on settlements of different costs. I hear reduced amount, we'd be willing to do a reduced amount. And I heard, or we go ahead with the funding as it stands, possibly with a doubling down or an assumption that all parties are at the table and approving a go forward plan or something, you know, which I think is up to the Coastal Commission to negotiate. Did I miss anything? Those are the three kind of pivots.
We can't do things making assumptions that something's
No.
gonna happen. That's not.
Well, yeah, maybe contingency, that maybe is a different contingency then. So instead of contingent on a settlement was one, a reduced amount was two, or a contingency that says we'll fund it, but we want to make sure that all parties agree or something, you know.
That all parties are agreed to have this.
Agree to spend this money on this project, I guess, right? I mean, it's our money, we're spending it, so it's a little bit odd. Forget number three. Maybe we're just saying
I think
either reduced amount or making it contingent on a settlement or go forward as it stands, right?
so that this, I don't think making it contingent on settlement is not uncertain because there's three parties. There's the city was the applicant, there's the TAS was the appellant, and there's the Coastal Commission, which is the agency right now has jurisdiction over the appeal. So if all three of those parties agree how that appeal is going to be resolved, then there's no need for a de novo hearing. And they get our $10,000 tomorrow, or, you know, as soon as they have to meet our conditions also, which we talked about earlier in executive session.
Okay, so I think your motion is on the floor, Councilor Kenny, and you just described it. And are there any other, because I think we need to move forward, one way or the other. Are there any questions for Councilor Kenny? Otherwise, I'm going to call for a second and a vote on that. So he's saying make it contingent on the settlement of the
CDP. appeal.
CDP appeal that went to the California Coastal Commission. And that would mean basically they'd have the de novo, either they wouldn't go to the de novo hearing, they would just, it'd be like settling out.
Yeah.
Okay, and you have to think about, if that's gonna work and how that's gonna work,
Yeah.
so. Okay, so that is the motion, is there a second?
One second, that one.
Okay, Jack will second, all those in favor,
I
all those opposed?
No,
Okay, so Joe and I oppose, and we have 3, so we have a majority passing. So,
Okay.
okay, thanks, everybody, that
Next
was,
time.
yeah, that was. On to the next item.
You mind if I just clarify that real quick? So
Yeah.
is that the motion
You had a
to,
question?
yeah, approve 10,000 on the condition that the parties settle the CDP appeal issues, they get resolved, and the ongoing litigation?
No,
No, just the CDP.
Just the CDP. Okay.
Yeah, the latter wasn't gonna be
Thank you.
too far. And I think the Coastal Commission has a process that probably won't be influenced by that, so that's why I voted nay.
What do you mean that they won't be?
I don't think that for $10,000, they're gonna abandon the appeal. That Taz will, or that the Coastal Commission will go through its process as they are. So that's why I voted no. But we will find out. Okay, next up, item number 2, presentation update of the 90% plan submittal 2024 STEP Main Street Improvement Project. So we're gonna talk about roads. Exciting,
Yeah, that's
exciting stuff.
yeah, sidewalks.
I'll try to move us along, you guys. Trails are always, yeah, a complex topic.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is the one project that I know most about on the agenda that I didn't read the city engineer's report, I have to admit, but I do know enough about it to be dangerous. So I'll go ahead and summarize quickly.
Everybody's around the back of it.
Yes,
So
exactly.
you don't have to go through
So
all the
let's see
detail.
here. So see, okay, this is Josh's report, and he and I have discussed this many times. So we're talking about well, first of all, the action before the council is just to receive the report. This is a project that the city's been moving forward with to rehabilitate the pavement, specifically for Main Street, Patrick's Point Drive, and West Haven Drive, funded by approximately $800,000 in state-only STIP funds. The project will improve roadway conditions, enhance public safety, and ensure ADA compliance. Construction is scheduled for summer 2026. It says to minimize community disruption, but summer 2026 is very disruptive. But it is what it is. That's the construction season. It's going to rehabilitate the key corridors in Main Street, Patrick Point Drive, West Haven Drive. These streets are critical for local mobility, economic activity, and they carry quite a bit of traffic, the majority of the traffic volumes. So the STIP program through the state of California is a primary mechanism for funding regional transportation projects. It's a 5-year capital improvement program for transportation infrastructure administered by Caltrans and the California Transportation Commission. And the STIP operates on a biennial cycle with project nominations and funding allocations occurring every 2 years. So other STIP funded projects include the Downtown Pedestrian Connectivity Project in 2018. That was all the new sidewalks, the sidewalks where we moved the sidewalk away from being adjacent to the tennis court. Behind the parking spaces in front of the tennis court, and the improvements on the opposite side of the street. So these are safety improvements that were made along with, it was just the intersections of going down to the turn on Edward Street. So that was one funding cycle that the city was recipient of funds for in 2018. And then the Trinity Street Rehabilitation Project, which was 2022. We got new pavement on Trinity Street. These improvements were identified by the city in 2013. In terms of Main Street, Patrick's Point, West Haven Drive, the project scope that we're dealing with here today, and has been identified as a priority in the Humboldt County Association of Governments Regional Transportation Plan since 2014. So the projects that are proposed in the STIP, typically, they're not just the engineer and staff members walking around saying, let's do this, let's do that. It's based on plans, local road safety plan, and also our regional transportation plan. These were studies that I probably could go back pretty quickly to our prior council meetings back in 2014, 16, where these projects were programmed. And now they're just coming to fruition because when you have a biennial cycle, you have to wait your turn and you have to be prioritized because this is part of a much larger regional pot of money. And city, it's fairly competitive. We do have allocations, but we're not guaranteed this. So when we get these funds and those funds for the connectivity project and the down street rehabilitation program funds, the city did a pretty good job making its case. But also perhaps other cities didn't do a good enough job making their case, or they didn't ask for enough funds because they have other funding sources. So Trinidad has been a pretty happy recipient of these STIP funds, probably on the odd years now, going back to 2014. Cities had some pretty significant investments almost every 2 years made in its local roads. So the project history and context was identified here, talking about Main Street, talking about the slurry seals in 2015. Slurry seal is when you put a kind of an asphalty tar mix on top to keep water from intruding into the surface, and then the aggregate in the asphalt from falling apart, and then you get what you call like alligatoring of the asphalt, where you see it kind of breaking into pieces, and then the next thing that happens is potholes, right? So this project has, again, that Main Street, Patrick's Point, probably the section of West Haven Drive is probably the nicest section. But as Josh and I have talked about in the past, he's like, well, that's the best time to do these projects. You know, when you have good asphalt, you don't want to wait till they turn into potholes, because then the project gets so much more expensive. And what we're talking about is a slight grind and repave of asphalt. So a thinner layer of asphalt, which ends up being less. So the other element of this project is the safety enhancements and the sidewalk improvements on the south side of Main Street. If anyone's walked along the south side of Main as you leave the town hall here, you'll notice that sidewalk kind of gets kind of narrow. The other side of the street has been improved as part of the HR3 Gateway project back in, I think it was 2008-9. Those projects were designed to move children safely from the other side of town under the freeway as they're walking to school. They needed to have enough, and then accessibility. That was the priority then. This side of the street was neglected. So this is going to basically round out a nice sidewalk enhancement project for Main Street Trinity. And that sidewalk is going to be expanded, not very much, but just enough to meet accessibility standards, maybe 6 inches, I think. And the roadway width is likely not going to be missed because it's already a little too wide. So it'll get a little bit tighter, but it still meets all the minimum standards for roadway widths. It looks like the schedule of this project is, let's see, construction allocation in January, advertisements to the newspapers in February, projects advertised in February, the bid opening in March, notice to proceed in July of next year, and then we'll begin construction in June, complete construction in July. It's going to be a very fast project. It's not going to be something we're going to be dealing with all summer long. And it's our job as staff to notify, once we've brought this to your attention, to notify all the residents that are going to be affected by this, businesses included, because they're the ones that seem to, have the biggest grief when construction occurs. You're blocking my business, you're blocking my access, people can't come spend money. And the, see, it says complete construction by the end of July. This, because we did not receive the, I believe it's the 2026 allocation, that money was just kind of discussed and negotiated. We're not going to be receiving any of the next round of funding. So what I wanted also to identify in this project scope preliminary discussion with our city council here is that we got a considerable amount of money invested in the city's streets and roadways over the last 6 to 8 years.
Yeah.
But we will not have this pot of money accessible to us probably for the next 5 to 7 years, right? So what we're dealing with now is let's use the money, let's spend it wisely, because we're going to have to be looking for other much smaller sources of funding to do roadway improvements, grind outs of poor sections, repaves. And I don't know if Josh and I talked about it. We don't see another $800,000 funding source coming our way anytime too soon. Perhaps with the 2028 STIP funds, but we won't be talking about that for 2 years. And then those funds will be programmed to be spent in 2028, 2028. But yeah, this is kind of a last hurrah for us and we got to make our dollars really go far after this if we do have significant issues. Like, you know, Aaron was mentioning tonight about thermoplastic. Those comes from our street funds, right? So if we've got thermoplastic that's breaking down all over town, unless there's a different source of money that we can harvest from, this particular surface transportation improvement program is it for us. And I have the plans included in this in the packet. If you wanted to look at them on that level, we can. But I just wanted to use this opportunity tonight with kind of a lighter agenda to just share this with the city, share this with the public, share it with you just to make sure you understood what was coming down the pipeline. There will be an additional discussion with the council for bids and proposals in February, March. You'll be seeing it again. But right now it's sort of a kickoff. And it's our job as staff to notify the residents that are going to be affected, especially.
So right now we're just looking for questions and comments and receiving the report tonight. Is that correct?
Exactly.
All right, council, any questions, comments for again?
Yeah, I was kind of hoping the engineer would be here. Not because it's kind of a technical question on page 49 of the packet. It's like sometimes the travel lane is 12 feet, sometimes it's 11 feet. Which are the two?
To page 49 of the packet?
Yeah, 49.
Schematic.
I was going to ask him, you know, what's the standard lane width?
Yeah, so it's 11 on West Haven, right? And then 12 on Main.
We think the 11 is up on West Haven Drive.
Yeah, it's both. No, you're right. So it shows, it shows Main Street with a 12 and Main Street with an 11.
Right.
Yeah.
Just kind of curious about that.
Mhm.
But in any event, I'm highly supportive of the projects, and I'll just have to find the answers to that question. I'll live. Also, so.
Other questions on this comments? I just, let's see, I had a quick one. I was wondering how many parcels will require permission for the driveway tie-ins, if you know offhand?
Yeah, they call those permission to enter into construct. So there's going to be, if you're familiar with down Trinity here, there's two driveways. I think it was the kind of the back exit for the Trinidad bed and breakfast, maybe a side entrance there, maybe, and then one property this way. I believe it's a vacation rental. They have a driveway with, it's almost like a culvert and a drain, and it's over here in front of the coffee shop too. And in front of well, it's not in front of our alley here, but it's in front of, anyway. Those designs are going to require us to enter onto those driveways to do some demo, so the water has a path to go under. We're not just gonna be staying limited to the city's right of way in those cases. And I have to deliver that's part of my role, is to deliver the permission to enter into construct and get the signature, and I believe it's 3 on the side of Main. It's
So it's kind of a construction easement or something that we get, or?
yes, because we're gonna have to access their just slightly outside the city's right of way to jackhammer, to add new asphalt to what they do is they call them, I think, driveway conforms. They have to, smooth that transition because now there's gonna be a new, instead of just a flat surface and up the sidewalk in the driveway, there's gonna be some infrastructure there. So in order to do that, we have to obtain permission to access their private property side beyond the public right of way so we can complete the construction. We're not necessarily going to impact we're not going to really kind of disturb their property, but it will take people and equipment to enter onto their private property.
Okay, thank you.
I talked another one. Are we gonna lose any parking on the south side of Main?
No.
Okay, good.
In fact, I think, well, it kind of depends, but the hedge on this side of Main, the large hedge that's there, that when cars are parked up against it and then the school kids are walking past, it's very tight, right? And where Ocean Avenue dumps out onto Main, where that hedge it pretty much goes right up to the edge. We're going to be asking as part of this discussion for that hedge to be trimmed back quite a ways so that the line of sight for people coming and going from Ocean.
Yes, it does like this now.
Exactly.
Good.
So no loss in parking.
Lucy's going to be very happy for this improvement.
Yeah.
Well, as we get closer, it's happening in June and July, and that's high tourist season. And so, as we get closer, I know there'll be a plan for notifying the community, notifying the public.
Yes.
How businesses will be accessed while the construction's going on, all that kind of stuff. Because the more we communicate, the better. And then if there's any staging of equipment and all that, keeping that under control is always good and appreciated by members of the community.
Ready for public comment on this?
I am. So we're going to public comment. Ms. Provo, I see your hand raised, and then Mr. Hickman in the room.
All right, thank you. My question is about West Haven Drive. And I'm going to I have one computer here. I'm going to try to figure out how to. Anyway, tell me about West Haven Drive. Is the overlay of pavement? Is that true from?
Yes, please.
Yes, it's going to be an overlay pavement, and it's the section of the city's West Haven Drive responsibilities that begin near the stop sign. Because anything in the interchange section of that West Haven Drive belongs to Caltrans. We're not going to be paving Caltrans property, so it's basically at or near the stop sign. And then it doesn't go very far. It only goes, I believe, to the junction of Quarry Road. So just that small area.
Okay. Well, just
it's a pavement overlay.
okay. Just for council's thoughts in the future, the Yurok tribe did buy 3 acres within the city of Trinidad limits. Thank you for that support. One of the things I think that the Yurok tribe was hoping to do is to work with the city to do a sidewalk on down to the town of Trinidad there to get to the post office and to the store, etc. So I didn't know if this overpavement would go that far, and just to consider that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a great
idea. I saw a young father and young kid getting pushed off by the cars at that intersection today. And like, I wish there was a sidewalk there. Yeah.
I agree. Okay, Mr. Haken.
First one I'll do just as a citizen and Mayor, you alluded to it. Any staging that's going to happen, I know where it's going to happen. It's going to happen across the street from where I live. I'm imploring you, if you don't want me to be present at every meeting and sending multiple emails, require screening, visual screening, and require them to maintain it. Put some kind of penalties in, that kind of stuff, because this last construction project, it is high tourist season. It is an eyesore. And it was not, I know city staff did their best, but there were no teeth. There was no penalty. There was no ability for the city to enforce that. So please write that in this time. Then putting on my planning commission hat for the last two comments, the program gave mentions signage changes. And when I looked through the schematics, thank you, I did not see any specific signage improvements called out. So I guess my ask is, can we get a list of what is it simply being replaced? Is it being replaced with like size? Are there going to be increases in sizes of stop signs, speed limit signs, that kind of stuff? Because visual clutter is a concern, right? We have beautiful vistas here, and not just of the ocean. The rest of town has great sight lines, and I want to make sure we protect those, and also have the max amount of awareness in the community of signage associated with this project, because we learned pedestrian improvements. I had a big mispurchase as a planning commissioner for the blinking signs down at the base of Hector. I wish I had voted no, or it requires something different on that, but that's happening. I know it's being worked on. The other request, and it was brought to the planning commission, to myself and Trevor's attention by email from a citizen, another planning commission member, is I guess in 2024, there was a state law passed that mandates 20 feet of red curb approaching any intersection, controlled or uncontrolled. And when I look at the schematics, I see that some are 15 and not all there. So this might be an opportunity to circle back to the traffic engineer and find out, does that rule apply to us? And if so, let's do it right now. Yes, it's going to impact parking if we're having to paint 5 more feet, but if it's going to be an issue somebody can raise down the road, and we're going to have to go back and do it again, let's do it once, let's do it right. So if I can get that question in there, because I see these drawings are dated October, so this is still obviously a draft. So I think there's thanks.
Great, thank you. All right, other public comments? Right, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council. Is there a motion to accept the report or further discussion?
I so move.
Okay, so there's a motion to accept, the second by Jack. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next item is a discussion decision regarding an FY26 budget amendment for North County Fire Working Group. And this is a cost sharing agreement to conduct the CSA4 fire service planning study. And back to our city manager for a staff report on that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Quick and brief as possible, but I also want to be thorough, because I think this program is going to be new to some of the council members on this. The council, and it dates back 3 or 4 years now. So the motion on the table is to authorize a 2026 fire budget amendment not to exceed $20,000 to cover the city of Trinidad's share of the North County Fire Working Group's cost sharing agreement to conduct the CSA4 fire service planning study. So a little bit of background here, concerns regarding the certainty of a long-standing and informal mutual aid agreement between jurisdictions within CSA4 district have increased due to wildfire and budget pressures on the state's ability to guarantee 24/7, 365 days of coverage from the Trinidad Cal Fire Station. Increasing fire insurance costs and sustainable staffing, and increase in regulatory pressures on the Trinidad and West Haven volunteer fire. First staff report that was submitted by the County Administrative Office to the Board of Supervisors on July 23rd, 2024. The County of Humboldt contracts with CAL FIRE to provide fire protection services in the county service area number 4, CSA 4. During the non-fire season, this gets interesting. CSA 4 includes the community of West Haven, the unincorporated area surrounding Trinidad, and the unincorporated area adjacent to Highway 101 stretching approximately 10 miles north of Trinidad. The unincorporated residents from CSA 4 formed an assessment district to pay for fire services provided by CAL FIRE on a year-round basis. So anybody who lives outside the city limits who know this, I would. I have on my tax bill a CSA 4 assessment, right? Every county property in the surrounding Trinidad area pays an assessment, and it's a $29 benefit, $29 per benefit unit, which calculation, right? A formula calculation. It's basically to balance, like, let's just say if you have one parcel, but that parcel is 20 acres, and you have one parcel and it's like 8,000 square feet, it's a benefit unit that says if you have a larger parcel, then you're going to pay more. We're not going to just say one price per, because if you have a 20-acre forest in wildland, you're not going to pay the same as somebody who's got an eighth of an acre, somewhere in West Haven, right? So, and I put under this formula an average rural half-acre land and may see an annual property tax assessment in the CSA 4 of approximately $200. CAL FIRE has offered to continue providing mutual advantageous fire and emergency services through cooperative fire programs. Fire Protection Reimbursement Agreement number 1CA06883. That's a number I keep seeing around. I've been seeing it for years. I never knew what it was all about until recently. I really dove deep into this. Between CAL FIRE and the County of Humboldt funds the employment of 3 firefighters, including operating expenses at the CAL FIRE Trinidad station. Board of Supervisors authorized approval of this cooperative fire program agreement by resolution for the period of July 1, 2024 to 2027. The annual cost projected for the current fiscal year is $331,000 roughly, with $223,000 being covered by the assessment. So the residents, the county taxpayers, are paying with their assessment roughly 2/3 of the full contract price that they have with CAL FIRE to maintain their CAL FIRE station, only in the non-fire season months, which is about 7-8 months on fire, and then the remainders are off. So so the county's coming up out of the general fund $107,993, what the residents are paying to with their assessment. So I'm setting this stage because we've been talking about this agreement for a while and setting up this new agreement. And over the years, we've been talking about how would Trinidad fund this if now we get out of this arrangement where we're kind of benefiting mutually from CAL FIRE and the good graces of CAL FIRE, who, as we know, shows up here no matter what. It seems 24/7. They're always here. Well, under the agreement, technically with the county, they don't have to be here all year. They're doing it out of their good graces mutually, and they don't have to be here during the fire season. And with fire seasons now getting bigger and worse, there has been a fear that, well, maybe they won't be here those months. And then what happens if all their resources are taken? If the governor says we need every CAL FIRE resource out of here, what's going to happen? Well, we have Trinidad Volunteer Fire and we have West Haven Volunteer Fire. West Haven Volunteer Fire is a 501c3. They're not even a public entity. Trinidad Volunteer Fire, as we all know, I think Aaron can attest to that our volunteers are older. Our station is still volunteer. The apparatus and all the equipment is still older, and it certainly wouldn't meet all the new current standards if we had to go buy a station here and fund the staff to house it. Far beyond that, right? So the residents in the CSA 4 have continued to experience dramatic increases in home and fire insurance rates, while the current cooperative provides a dedicated service for 7 months of the year. Mutual aid is the remainder of the year, which I was just describing. The North County Fire Working Group was organized in 2022 to develop strategies to address this dynamic and for the benefits to residents. The group consists of the County of Humboldt, City of Trinidad, Trinidad Volunteer Fire Department, the Rancheria is now involved, and West Haven Volunteer Fire. And they've identified these issues that I pointed out in bullets that are impacting the ability to provide effective fire service to this area. One is the service provider response is out of alignment with jurisdictional boundaries, more expected than this mutual aid agreement provides. They're seeing CAL FIRE is always here. Trinidad may or may not show up. West Haven has been pretty good lately, but Trinidad's showing up a little bit more now because we share a chief with West Haven. Trinidad Rancheria has no fire service, and they get calls, emergency calls up there quite a bit. So West Haven's responding to calls up at the Rancheria. So there's like a little bit of an out of proportion of how these services are being distributed within our community, within our district. West Haven doesn't receive any funding from CSA4. They're a BlackBerry Pi agency. That's how they make their money, on the good graces of the community being used for profit, right? Trinidad Volunteer gets its money from our general fund. We budget what our fire department needs are for. Let's see. So there's also a reliance within the study area on mutual aid from Arcata Fire. Or in some cases, they'll come down if there's like an accident on the freeway or whatever. Summertime, you don't want accidents on the freeway because they can cause fires. So, and CAL FIRE. And in the final bullet here is the city of Trinidad and Rancheria are non-paying beneficiaries of these services provided through the Amador agreement with CAL FIRE during the non-fire season and goodwill services during fire season. So again, Trinidad's gaining from this service, but not really paying much into it. So the working group agreed that a consultant contract administered by LAFCO on behalf of the partnership was appropriate. Now, I was tuning into these meetings years ago when former council member Steve Ladwig was really pushing for this. He and Jack West were attending these meetings. Eli were attending these meetings. Several of them were held here. Madrone was attending these meetings, and staff from the county, along with other fire agency staffers. So West Haven Fire at that time, Sean, who is currently our fire chief, was coming to these meetings. Rancheria staff were coming because they were now wanting in on this, especially if they're considering larger infrastructure up at their Rancheria. Someday they want to buy into these services. They want to make sure that they have what they need to support their community. And this partnership that developed agreed to create a scope of work for a project to evaluate the existing needs in this area, development of appropriate models, including cost estimates and associated financial projections, analysis of revenue options to support operational and organizational models of what this kind of larger area agreement would look like. And the city had, back in November 2023, on the 14th, the council last discussed and approved a $5,000 donation, a contribution to this effort to then create the scope of work, which is what basically has now been completed by a consultant saying, hey, here's what we've done. Here's what we think we need to do to complete this scope. And we will do this scope for X amount of dollars. And Trinidad's share is $20,000. The Rancheria is going to contribute $20,000, I believe, and then I believe the Rancheria is going to contribute the other $20,000. So those three contributors are going to be adding, and that's what we're asking today. Now, last thing I'll say, fiscal impact in here. I think it says, I think in 2024. The council budgeted $35,000 for this purpose, but the scope didn't mature before the year expired. 2025, we budgeted $10,000, but the full scope of the proposal had not been released before that budget year expired. And then coincidentally, former city manager Takabashi was looking at this and he said, why do we have this in here? And he just kind of wiped it out this last year. So I'm asking for an amendment to that budget to include the $20,000 as part of this discussion tonight, to make the city's contribution, but I also wanted to explain to you that this isn't coming out of nowhere. It's something that has been really vetted. And in fact, we braced for it for almost 2 budget years. It just didn't happen. Now it's materialized. So this is the next step, and that's what we're asking of you today.
I'm glad personally to see this moving forward. I've attended a few of these meetings and, we're really getting some momentum and, I don't know, it seems like a relatively small investment for the city. And in return, we get a pretty big voice at the table in determining, what our future is with regard to fire service. I don't know if the scope also considers kind of governance models or if it's just about the cost sharing, but that would be something maybe to consider when, I assume Gabe, you're our person. So, I think I would kind of ask them if this consultant's going to go out and just look at the cost sharing models or if they're going to look at whether it's a JPA or annexation or kind of.
I think I skipped that whole. It's the word.
Sorry, I may have.
Appropriate organizational and governance models to support the best possible service.
Great. Okay. Great. So yeah, I think it's a great idea. Other comments, questions?
My only concern is after reading through the scope of work consultants can provide, it looks like they're going to spend a lot of time assessing the Trinidad Volunteer Fire Department. But, we can tell them already right now what the problem is. Thus, we don't have enough volunteers. So it's just, I hate to see money going to answer questions that are very obvious to us. I understand that LAFCO probably has to go through this and do the study and everything. I don't really see it as a really efficient use of our money.
Are they looking at calls though? Is it more the data? I thought they were
going to interview the chief. They're going to look at all the calls, look at how we log things, our times, all these things, and they're going to find all kinds of deficiencies. Because, we don't have the personnel. We got pretty good equipment, but bodies on the ground is a real problem for us.
Steve, I thought you said that we had 2 new volunteers. Did I misunderstand for the volunteer fire department?
No, you had that correct. I think they're one of them is Angela's we have there's brother who lives down the street here on Everett Street, and I'm sorry, I don't know the name of the next one.
There's a second person, so we do have more volunteers now.
Right, but are they trained?
No, yeah, if they're trained yet, yeah.
First aid CPR. I think that's
a start. Anyway,
so they have,
I'm for this. I know we have to do this. It's a huge problem that we have to resolve in the bigger picture. I just kind of hate to see our money going going to be billed for assessing what the problems with our department are when we already know, essentially.
okay,
So maybe
larger report though.
Yeah, hopefully it'll get us to a place where a larger district is formed and we're going to be part of it, and it won't rely maybe at all on volunteers anymore. So
yeah, that's a good
those are my
point.
comments on it.
I think it's a statewide problem, finding young men to fulfill the volunteer role. It's just young women,
Young people, yeah, more of a nationwide problem, I would say.
Just so yeah, I'm not sure how you solve that problem. I think preventive measures are a step in the right direction. I'm sure they're probably looking at some of those in the study. Making sure there's plenty of setback from wildland fire brush and trees and stuff of that nature. That goes a long way for insurance purposes, especially. So that's really what this is all about, is trying to maintain the insurance. Cool.
Well, that's part of it. The bigger question is, can we actually suppress a fire? There's one in the city. Anyway, and as a side observation, because I live real close, right across the alley, it seems like the siren goes off about every other day, like a lot more than I've ever heard it.
What is the reason for the siren?
I've wondered that myself.
Yeah, it's more like tradition.
Our volunteers don't run out and do something when I hear that siren. They do.
They might, if they're around.
They do.
I know Aaron's just trained firefighter, but he's professional, works down south.
Yeah.
A lot of
I mean, I think they take the calls and the siren goes off. So if they're in earshot, they would probably just run inside and
No, they have cell phones now.
and this, yeah,
They get notified.
not just.
I'm not kidding.
Yeah, no, I know.
The siren is just
No, I know.
a matter of tradition.
It feels like an anachronism.
Yeah, I think I hear a lot of disgruntled citizens about siren going off in the middle of the night. What's going on? If it's an tsunami alert, I'm all for that. If it's somebody fell off the bar stool, I am.
Maybe as part of this, we also, side note, reevaluate if the siren is truly just tradition and not used for any practical reason, then maybe that's something we need to look at.
That might get phased out.
Yeah, might need to be phased out.
Anyway, you ready for public comment?
We are. I was just going to ask if the council is done. Okay, did have any questions? Okay. Public comments, please.
Okay, this is totally out of left field. This just occurred to me. But in terms of the training, doesn't CR have some kind of fire training program?
Yes.
Is there any way that we could work with them so that they could train some of our volunteers so that we would have quote unquote trained people on board?
Yeah,
Just
great idea. Great suggestion.
We do offer that. We have a budget for training. And if we get a volunteer that decides to maybe want to have a career in that, especially if it's a wildland fire or any of the deeper dives that CR offers, yes,
The city will fund it.
our fire chief will evaluate and then agree to that.
Okay.
We had in many years now, we've had a little bit of a battle with that because people come here, they want to volunteer, then they get trained and then they're out of here. They got their base training and they're gone to get a job. So, we were very grateful to have them, but if the discretion does fall on our fire chief to determine whether or not, this is something we want to do. For instance, the young gentleman that just signed up, he could potentially be interested in that level of career. I think he's in late high school years, late high school, must be a senior. 18. He's 18. That was the minimum age. So he might be very well interested, and he lives here, so it'll be a good match.
Great.
Just a couple, I'll try to keep this real brief. Just some historical perspective as well. It was explained to me by Tom Marquette when he was fire chief. The Rancheria actually lies within Trinidad VFD's response area. So they're not this island all of a sudden looking for fire protection. Trinidad VFD owns that on the LAFCO map, is my understanding. Years ago, Chief Marquette ceded that responsibility to West Haven, and they've taken over there. They respond. They are the only agency that responds there, but I believe legally the map still includes that. So that is technically Trinidad VFD's response area. So it's not as though they're trying to come into this as a new entrant. We should theoretically on paper be providing the service, but West Haven appreciate the call volume. And then just to the training piece, yes, that's a great idea. Yes, that's used. It is still quite a lift to get somebody from coming through the door to become a trained volunteer firefighter, going to do structural firefighting and can provide safe care on medical aid, right? To your question, Bryce, I do get the pages on my phone. I will tell you the siren is routinely 15 to 30 seconds ahead of that. There's just a lag time between. That's a radio wave that goes out versus going from the dispatch center, wherever it is now. I think they just moved to they're about to, to our cell phone. So there is an advantage to that. Apparently it used to go off until somebody went and silenced it. So it's way better than it was back in the day, because that would be a nightmare right now, because there's times when people aren't even around to go to things. And when I'm able to respond, which I'm not currently, but out looking my yard, I don't have my phone on me, I don't have a radio, I don't have a pager for the fire department. If I hear that, and I'm running weed whacker, so that might be the only way I know that there's a call to go to. Keep in mind, if CAL FIRE is out doing their training elsewhere in the county, there's nobody else that's going to respond. So I don't know what the solution is, but there is a lot of history and tradition behind the siren, but if there's nobody ruling or nobody around that can actually respond to it, maybe you can tell them that you're in town, you turn it on, the rest of the time you turn it off. I don't know, maybe that could be a hybrid way to get there. And then Katie, you made the point for me that Bryce, about spending the money. Yes, we know what the challenge of Trinidad BFD is. The consultants have a different lens, different perspective, different experiences, and the money is not just going to have them have that conversation, which I agree with pretty short. It's providing this hopefully fairly turnkey, neutral perspective on, hey, here's some potential solutions for this great area. So that's what your money is buying. And I think this is money that is incredibly well spent. This is a one-time cost to develop a usable product versus, we have our security feeder that drives around. It's an ongoing budgetized benefit that we're very happy to do, that I don't personally receive a whole lot of tangible benefit from. This is somebody responding to my house if I trip and fall or my house catches fire. And I think this is a far better use. I think it's a really good use of the funds. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Right, I don't see any other public comments. I'll bring it back to the council.
I'll move that we amend the budget to include the 20,000 to contribute to the LAFCO for the second phase of the study.
Okay, I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Gabe. All right, we're moving on then to the discussion decision to receive and accept the final recommendation to sunset the Animal Advisory Committee. Do you want to start, kick us off, or do you want me to?
I mean, if
Yeah,
sure.
I'm delighted to have you kick this.
So I'll take this off your hands for a minute. So the staff recommendation for the proposed direction tonight we received from the council is to review and discuss the final recommendation submitted by the Animal Advisory Committee to sunsetting the committee and accept remaining tasks to the council for implementation in sync with current budget priorities. So first thing I'll mention is, three of you now are very familiar with this committee on the council, is that there's been a difficulty in keeping the voting members engaged and available to continue the work of this committee. Several members have suggested putting it to rest. Final committee recommendations have been prepared, and the committee is poised to sunset should that be the direction that the council chooses and the committee chair, Mayor Kelly, at the moment wishes. Earlier this year, committee chair Breckenridge stepped down due to disruptions from either the audience or fellow members that distracted the meeting focus. Fellow voting member Jack Tuttle, please correct me, Jack, if I'm on the right track here, stepped down as well. He stepped away after, correct? Okay. Mayor Kelly took the committee off life support for a moment when she stepped in to help the committee achieve order and complete a few priority tasks. This was leave in March. This past March, or was it? Joe was here. It was after April. So Joe was here. He recommended sunsetting after you stepped down, and then you stepped in, Mayor Kelly, and said, "Hey, I think we can finish the business of this committee."
So I think our last meeting was July 10th.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the committee was established by resolution in March 2024 due to a series of dog-related incidents. I go into a few of the committee purpose, the objectives in this staff report. The proposal, again, to sunset this committee was brought forward to the ACC in March or April 2025. but there was a renewed desire by some of the members to give another shot, specifically to continue the work that aligns county, city, and state regulations and also focus on new information provided to the Rancheria by state parks regarding I think coastal pathogens, fecal contamination on state beach. That popped up and suddenly it was like, oh, we got to talk about this, right? Both topics were further discussed and the committee has appeared to have met its purpose and objectives. What I didn't mention in this report also is that we lost at the final hour, just moments before our meeting was supposed, the last AAC committee meeting on October 20th was supposed to begin. We lost the Andrew Davis, who was on the committee. He stepped down, I guess, quite suddenly. We had put all this effort to pick a meeting day. We put the effort into the packet and whatever else was going to be discussed. Everybody was here. In fact, I think if Anton can confirm, I think we had the meeting room set up. Were we almost there? We did. We had the meeting. I mean, we put all this effort into it. And he submitted his letter and said basically, or I believe he submitted it to Mayor Kelly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically saying, you know, I'm out. So we had to cancel that meeting because I don't believe we had a quorum.
We didn't have a quorum.
So, you know, we're back on life support. So,
Yeah, so Jackie wasn't able to. So we're the last three remaining members now are Jackie Hustler Congressman of the Rancheria, myself, and Ted Pease. And so I guess in short, I want to thank everyone who's participated in the Animal Advisory Committee because I think actually a lot of good work has been done. Andrew Davis did a lot of work right before. He did resign that day, but he did do a lot of work before that and sent that to the remaining three of us. Just so you know, I've checked with Ted and Jackie. They are in agreement that we should sunset the committee. And so to that end, I put together a list of recommendations. We don't need to agree on all those recommendations now because what will happen is it's more of an agreement that we would proceed to look at our existing ordinances and modify them in some of the ways that we've described here. But that ordinance then would come back before the council at least once, if not more, to review. So you would all get to see. And then for those who are interested, I won't go through them, but there's a list of recommendations in here that I think are based on prior discussions before I became chair. And then, well, in the one kind of really good meeting that I feel like we had. So I just at this point feel like we've achieved enough with this committee to kind of revise the ordinances and that the committee meeting itself is no longer needed and we can go ahead and get the work done working with staff. And I'm happy to do that, working with staff and then circulating it and getting it back to the council. So that's kind of where we stand. Any questions from the council?
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you saying that Jackie, Ted, and you sort of an ad hoc committee will continue to work on changes?
I mean, I would loop them in, but no, I would not say that we'll continue as an ad hoc committee. We will not continue as a committee. We will sunset this Animal Advisory Committee. But I will work as an individual council member with staff to take what now has been developed in these various committee meetings and work on a revision of our ordinance to bring back to the council. I think I can go it alone at this point based on everything I've gotten from all the feedback. And Jackie and Ted. So
I support your recommendation.
is there any public comment first before we go to a vote on this? Okay, no. And then back to you then, Bryce. You would.
I will make the motion that we thank everyone who was involved in the committee for all their good work, and we let it sink gracefully into the sunset.
Well, I obviously would second that motion as the chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Woof. Sorry.
No more vicious dogs in town, I've noticed. Good job.
Just give me a call. I'll take care of it. Okay, so discussion decision regarding the December council meeting schedule. So I think this might have been another one that I teed up. It will walk us through. I just want to say prior to that you guys may remember that sometimes we don't have meetings in August and sometimes we don't have meetings in December if there's not a big heavy workload. And I kind of started this because, you know, December is a very busy month for people from a holiday perspective. And sometimes, you know, we spend time with their families. So for all of us, it's kind of a break.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good summary. You pretty much took the words out of my mouth, but you definitely brought this forward. So I put a few notes in the discussion background here. You know, depending on the need to discuss time-sensitive matters or priorities that might pop up, the council could wish to plan or could plan for a meeting 3 December right now. And if something pops up, the city manager could try to call a special meeting with only a quorum. So we just need a quorum. I would be mindful of the fact that if it were something very important, I would like to get, obviously, in all cases, we would like the full council present. But I would be able to use some discretion to communicate that to you if indeed, in fact, something popped up. So the discussion is just here to gauge the members' preference and have discussion while we're here. Because our meetings are set by resolution, we need to put steps into motion to cancel a meeting legally. We have to notify the public. We have to put information on our website, and it's a lot easier to do when we know versus, you know, after a meeting's been scheduled and then suddenly we realize there's not enough people to be there. So part of the meeting discussion tonight is like, first of all, is there any objection to having the December 9th meeting, or are there any schedule that I think it's December 9th?
Yeah, December 9th.
Yeah.
So are you saying it's easier for staff to just, you know in advance that we're not going to have a meeting and schedule a special if you have to, versus putting it on the agenda, on the calendar, and then canceling it?
Yes. Well, first of all, I mean, people, if anything pops up, community driven. Like another agency says, hey, are you guys having a meeting? Can you consider putting this on your December agenda? It's easier to say, we're not having it than it is to say, I have to get back to you. You gotta check with all the council members and figure it out, right? And then if it's not pressing, I can say, we're not having a meeting, can't wait till January. Versus the opposite, which is, you know, kind of a fire drill. Like, oh, can we get meetings? You know, so yeah, it's better to know in advance if it's the council's pleasure, and then you leave it to the manager to, you know, call a special meeting if something really urgent occurs. And then there's flexibility with dates. So it's really up to you. I don't have anything, and I think I may have mentioned there are no pressing issues.
No hot topics that you foresee at the moment?
Not hot topics. We've got a lot of administrative duties that occur in December as well. Like we begin our kickoff with the STR permit renewal process, and business licenses are due. Renewals are due at the end of December. That was a decision that was made from the auditor, which we liked it better during the fiscal year, but he recommended that businesses operate on the calendar year. So let's do it now, which now we have a logjam in December of activity. So this would actually give us a moment to catch up, if that is your pleasure.
Okay. Questions, comments, preferences?
I'll just throw out there that my only holiday plans are be like the 24th and about the 3rd of January. I'll probably be here December 9th and we're going to have meetings, but I'd be perfectly happy to take the month off too. And just be subject, call.
Because there's a special meeting.
Something really important.
Same here, I'm not going anywhere, but if there was a special meeting, I could definitely make the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so it sounds like we have, any public comment about this? Any members of the public who really want us to have a meeting in December? Okay, bringing it back to the council, then what's your preference then? You want to keep it off the books and then hold a special meeting if there's agenda to warrant it? Okay.
Yeah, kind of a staff's request or suggestion.
Okay. Yeah. All right, so moved. I'll move that we cancel December's council meeting, and if there's if something comes up, with the understanding that we can hold a special meeting. Okay, is there,
Second that.
okay, Jack seconds, all those in favor? Aye,
Public comment.
I'm sorry,
Did we do public
I
comment?
did, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And do you want to say, do
Yes,
you
no.
want to say yay?
I'll do my best. I'll do my best to, if something does come up, I'll try to funnel it on the December 9th date. So it doesn't fall too far out of the normal. But I.
All right, great. So now it's the exciting agenda where we talk about staff activity report, which was once again really, really good, really comprehensive game, and hopefully others had a chance to do it.
It's long and hot in the rain.
I've read every word of it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a lot of really good stuff.
I honestly, there's just a couple things I want to point out. One, tomorrow, there's a meeting, Humboldt Bay Municipal.
I wish I
I'm
could.
planning on it.
I'll call in. I'm gonna call in as well.
Call in, Zoom in, it's all accessible or going, 9 a.m. I plan on Zooming in, just so you know, I'll be there. I've discussed it with Ichiko, the general manager, and I will be present in case something pops up. It is a no decision. There's no decision. They're just doing a presentation.
Information.
It's an informational meeting. So that's happening tomorrow at 9 a.m. I will be logged in case something comes up that I could be of assistance if any of their board members have any questions. But it's not really about Trinidad. This is about the Rancheria's proposal and feasibility study, right? Which is very much in line with what we are brewing in the background, which is a kind of a come back to the July 8th meeting, where your council wanted to see a feasibility comparison. So some things that are playing out in this particular, not necessarily in this meeting, that will be discussed potentially in this meeting with future dates, will be very helpful for us, myself as staff, to then begin to architect something that I can bring back to you. So I will be, that's one thing. Let's see. Want to point out, I wanted to just highlight the leak at the water plant that occurred, which I thrown some photos in here. We had a big tree nearly just annihilated our pump house. It was quite a complete disaster. It happened during the storm, I think, on October. We had 2 rain events in October, one around 18th and the other one on the 27th. That one, the ground was pretty saturated, and it just, there's a picture, I don't know how well you can see it in there, but it really did have almost just a catastrophic mess to our wet well where we pull the water out of the creek from. And then in removing that tree as a threat, because it was hovering above just adjacent to the pump house, it broke, snapped, and a branch busted the feed line. But Rich Well Drilling came out to our rescue and repaired it. Thank goodness our tanks were full. So it was a disaster avoided. So Humboldt Bay, I added quite a few notes in here about the intertie project. The intertie project is finally moving forward. Thank goodness. We're getting some steam in that project. There's starting to be some gelling with our contractors in West Haven and the engineering firms that are involved. That project, I'm happy to share that we have some movement, because I know there's been some emails, between the higher brass, between the 2 agencies that have been kind of raising some eyebrows, like should we be talking and shouldn't be, but I think we've got enough movement now to where everybody's staying in their corners. As far as the BIA and the Rancheria application we made for the right of way, for the boardwalk, there's been no response from the BIA. As you can imagine, I think the government's been shut down, and I think that had a pretty big impact on their ability to respond. So far, we'll report when new information comes in. And then there's this Axel Lincoln Memorial Trail Working Group appeal, which we discussed tonight. I don't need to get into that too much detail. And then the rod repair project, we have new windows. If anyone didn't notice, we've got all new windows. There's a couple of punch list items still left on the to-do list, and as soon as those are done, I think there's 2 windows that they missed, because if you walk around the interior of the building, you're counting windows. You don't open the storage closet and the old ladies' bathroom closet, but you see them around the outside, but you don't see them on the inside. You didn't think about it. So they missed those 2 windows. So they're coming back to do those 2 windows. They found some rot repair. The project stayed within budget, just like within a hair of our budget, $75,000. And the invoices that came in were around $73,500.
Oh, okay.
Right. And so the next step is to invite the painters to come and start their process. And then last but not least, I just pointed out, because trails are a huge asset in this community, right? I mean, beloved assets that we are struggling to see good things happen with. We've got beautiful trails, but sometimes we just can't fix them and take care of them like we'd like to. Some of you may know, Jack, you might know this because it's related to the Underwood, and I wanted to draw some attention to it. I'm sure Sharon Hunter, the owner of the property who did this work for really herself, but also her neighbor, but also the trail users. You know, there was some snag. I don't know if anybody used that Underwood Trail. Bryce, you probably use that trail. So I don't know if you've noticed, but there was quite a bit of work done at the end of that trail, in coordination between us, because she wanted to make sure she was doing permitting and making sure she wasn't going to raise anyone's, hair, cutting trees, or anything. But she did a really nice job that I would encourage anybody who enjoys our trails to check it out. But it was very nice of her to graciously invest the money.
Yeah, big thank you.
On her side, but we could have gone in there and we could have justified our own budget expense to make sure that any of the users using that trail would be not in harm's way if there was, a windstorm or something. There's trees covered in ivy, branches hanging over near the power lines on the neighbor's house. But she was very, very kind enough to put the work in, and it's actually quite beautiful. You walk down, it's a nice job. So, those are feel good stories, when people are actually doing things that it's their heart, and then we're talking about it. She probably wouldn't care if we were mentioning it, but I don't even told her I did it, but I wanted to give her some credit. That's it. If you have any questions about it, please let me know.
I just had a quick one about the Humboldt Creek flow. We do the PWA does the dry season flow rate monitoring.
Yes.
And I was just wondering, since they didn't do it, should we just skip it and save the money, or do we?
That's kind of what I'm thinking. There's a task order that says that the work is done during the drought, or during the drought period.
Yeah.
On an as needed basis. And that's exactly what I thought. I just thought, why are we going to spend?
Yeah, it's raining now, so.
Do this when the river's swollen. We're well above our bypass drop. I feel well above. We're healthily above our bypass flow requirements. So
Yeah.
It's not necessary. And I think we have good data anyway coming in. We just don't have that snapshot right there in that moment, and it's not going to affect us.
We're supposed to be getting some rain. On the cemetery side, you probably saw the news that the county has approved green burial.
I saw that.
And so, yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah, I thought that was.
Can't wait to try it.
Yeah, me too. Did I sound excited enough? I'm very excited about it.
They mentioned Trinidad.
So yeah. So at some point, if we expand, I've mentioned this in the past, I think, but if we did expand, it'd be nice to have a section that was green burial. Now that somebody's kind of set the
Green bear is directly into the ground.
do they just throw you in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's still drainage route.
There's no chemicals and all that kind of
I
stuff.
don't even think there's heads. I think it's just ultra green, dig a hole and
Yeah.
remains go away. And my understanding, I don't believe there's headstones or anything to kind of.
Oh, you don't even have a
So
headstone?
you have to do it at dedicated cemetery, so. Can
This
do it
one
in your
that was
back.
just approved, this one that was approved, I think it's in Newland, or Newland, is it in Newland?
Yeah.
It's in Newland, and a guy named Michael Furnice has been the champion behind this for a long time. He's very much into environmental science, and he's been an advocate for that for our cemetery, because we have been known to do some greenish burials, but when everybody has a little bit of a different.
Greenish.
definition of green,
Yeah, right.
right? So
Chartreuse.
We don't.
I always like to-
Washing.
I always like to finish our evening, talking
Yeah.
about burial, because that's always a happy topic.
yeah, but I will say, as far as our finances go relative to the cemetery, thanks for pointing that out. I may have mentioned in our, one of these, I think it was one of the sections of the staff report, we are at well over within the first quarter of our budget because of our new rates that were implemented. We're well near our budget, which was quite a bit was elevated because we've been having so much activity.
Okay,
And we're only a quarter in, so the rates are doing what they're supposed to be doing.
okay.
Maybe we'll eventually decide on that one off of the water department. The excess center.
That's right.
Other questions or comments for Gabe
Yeah, I
on the
just
staff report?
First of all, relative to page one, we have to do something, and I know that we're going to hire more people to get you down from 50 highly productive hours.
Yeah, we are doing
Thank you
that.
for all your hard work. We don't want to burn you out.
Yeah, I don't want to burn out either.
I was thinking the same thing.
I think high frequency. I think that was when I wrote highly of productive because you need to be productive. And even at that high level of productivity, it still takes about 50 hours. And that's because of the tug of war of the time and all the projects to get out. But this high frequency is also like you really got to be on your game in this wherever.
And then relative to the alder tree, the near miss of the water plant, I was thinking it might be a good idea to do a little inventory around there. Maybe have our staff do some preemptive strikes. Honestly, hazard trees.
We did one just before the rain starts. So I think it was early September. We took down a big one that was would have been a direct hit to the building that we house all the equipment in.
Yeah, because an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. If the trees are on neighboring property, insurance companies consider a falling tree an act of God, unless they've been warned first that, hey, this tree is a problem, you can cut it down. That's the thought.
Okay.
I'm really happy to see the T3 situation moving forward, getting Carl all trained up and all the other guys. That's really great.
We are very much working individually. We have the oversight of the contractor.
Yeah.
But in all reality, we pull him in when we have a question about a report, but now he's really fading into the distance.
Yeah.
We're hoping that he's going to give us the sign off
Okay, good.
to get Carl his hours. And Carl's got like 1,700 hours of his 1,800 hours.
Good.
But your current T3 operator can use discretion when filling out the paperwork to the state to get them their license. But I will tell you right now, we are really cruising without any third party. We're weaning off them very fast. And our goal, in fact, Joe Tagliavacci's goal was to get out of this by December. And I think that's where we're at.
Good. As far as the BIA application and all that, it might be worth a little investment of time to just give them a call over there, see if anybody answers.
Sure.
And figure out if they're open or closed, or if they even got the application, just to kind of make sure. Might be closed completely. The leak, the water leak level, 23 point. Hope we can keep getting that down more as time goes on. I know we will.
We just put a new master meter in. We put a new master meter, which we thought was kind of the culprit. I just got a photograph today. The staff sends me every day a picture of the master meter. I do the counts in my head. Typically, I responded and I'll say, hey, we've been filling the tanks all night, whatever. And they're like, yeah, we're filling them because we're going to be off because there's rain. We're going to not run. So I saw the picture of the new master meter today, and I was actually at the plant yesterday because there was a little bit of a leak in one of the couplers when that master meter was installed. And that was also, it's kind of been a culprit. We're wondering, we're fixing all the little things that are our registers to make sure that we're calibrated right, to eliminate any other possible strange anomalies in our leak detection. So I just replaced it. It hadn't been calibrated for like, I think about 5 or 10 years. So we're hoping that that new master meter will give us some better data.
Yeah,
Roll that out.
yeah. And then I read, of course, the staff report regarding the RFP for hooking up to Humboldt Bay and so forth, the comparative analysis. And I would just like to say that, you know, I plan on approving your report, but I do take issue with some of the statements made in staff report. If this is not the time to belabor everyone with all that, but just for example, I point out that generally we're considered a high risk because we only have a single source of water for our system. But that will not be true when the Intertie project is completed, which it almost is. So that's just one example of some statements that are a little misleading, in my opinion. I'm sure I'll have a robust discussion with the planner.
Yeah, you'll have an opportunity to. What
time is appropriate.
You have more discussion on that.
So I thank you very much for that thorough report. And I'm so glad I'm having working on it. So
Okay, sorry.
Future agenda items.
Yes. And let me just first ask if there's anyone from the public who has any comments on the staff report. All right, future agenda items and for the council.
Yeah, so a couple of neighbors have been reaching out to me about the overgrowth behind Irwin Street. So it's behind Eric Fishman, Sharon Hunter. There's it's out of control. These little red berries are just overpopulating and it's blocking views and it's a fire hazard. So we definitely want to see how we could get a hold of the state parks. I would volunteer myself and my neighbors to go out there and trim those down any day.
Are you talking about the bluff there?
Yeah, right. So where we trim that pine right behind it, it used to be a prairie. It used to be low weeds and now it's just brush and it's just getting really messy. And so all we need is a warm summer day and a camper. A lot of people camp down there. And all they need is a little spark to make the whole area start on fire.
we had a situation like that back in the early 80s.
Yeah.
It was really scary, close call.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's one of the hot spots in town. I would really love to focus on getting some. And again, if there's any volunteer help, like I know I can get some people there to help.
Tim Parks has been pretty good about when we talk to them, like they took out that old.
They have a plan. So Joe was talking to the woman there. They have a great plan. They just don't have any way to implement it. Yeah.
Yeah, that plan is 10 years old.
Yeah.
They haven't done it.
Yeah. You probably know a little bit more than anyone. Yeah.
It's, yeah, I don't even want to go to that.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe vegetation trimming could be the topic, or we can just ask staff to look into it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if I was able to set up a discussion, like a formal but informal meeting with the state park staff and you in particular, and we could also bring it to the whole council if we feel if the council wants.
If they're available, I mean, I hesitate to bring it as a discussion topic if you can just go and handle it. But if it's handle it, then bring it to the council.
Or if I can set something up and maybe invite the two of you, because we can have two council members just, meet, especially two that are most interested.
And Sharon would love to be there as well. She's been actively.
Okay, I'll see if I can set something up with state parks.
I mean, it's a fire safe issue that really threatens the whole community.
Yeah.
Because if a fire comes up over there, it's just going to take out a large swath of Trinidad.
Okay.
Well, you can decide if it, we can discuss whether it should be agendized after you guys have that meeting and if there's further discussion.
I think that's a good strategy because it, like you mentioned, it could affect the whole city. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
I mean, it's a very real potential, but I think we could start at a small level and really see what we can find out.
That's good.
In such a meeting with State Park, could you add the College Cove, that beautiful set of stairs that go down to that wonderful beach? If you're over a certain age, you cannot use them because there's no railing. And so I was going to ask you, like, how do I just call them? But if you're going to have a meeting with State Park,
I have
bring that up.
I have contact information for them if you guys need it. So I spoke to the people that built that like a year ago.
About the railing?
Not about the railing. I spoke to the people to the state parks individuals who built the steps.
Yeah.
So between the two of us, we probably have the contact information for them and their boss.
Everything.
It's the trail team that did the
They
work.
did a wonderful job.
But
There's no
supervisor, they would.
Everything they do at the state parks is pretty intentional, and that project was very intentional in College Cove. You know, I'm sure they discussed accessibility or any other maybe safety issues. So if anything, we could just find out what their justification was for not putting a handrail. I'm just reversing our way into that conversation, but I could facilitate that. I could work with
Send you,
Carol, and we could get some communication.
agenda items. Several people have asked me about Mary and Dorothy and their cleaning up of Trinidad, and they do such a wonderful job. Is there some way we can acknowledge or build them a statue or something?
Have they received a resolution before?
Yes, I remember something,
Yeah.
and I think they didn't want to show up and have the lights shined on.
Is that right?
There was some kind of recognition. There was a recognition kicked around, I think, and I think you're exactly right. They
demurred.
They demurred from that? Okay.
But we could do
Some
something,
recollection,
even if we don't have to embarrass them on the spot.
but it is true that they provided great
Great
service.
Yes, I know, because I agree with you. And those that have given feedback that they should be recognized, but maybe we can noodle offline a
I
little
live
bit.
next door to both of them, I think, so next time I see them, I'll mention it to them, would they like to have a little
No,
award or something?
They're so,
Surprise?
well, the surprise is part of it, but they'll probably also say no.
Well,
We
if they say
got-
no, they say no. I mean,
They haven't heard what we're going to do yet. And we haven't thought it up
neither
yet.
have I.
Neither have I.
maybe we can dedicate 2 of our own crab pot sculptures in their honor.
All right, so why don't we, let's think about this a little bit, and if you have some suggestions, reach out to Gabe, and I will kind of put my thinking cap on too, because I think you're right, that's something is overdue, if we can figure something out.
Yeah.
And then we'll see if we need to agendize it for discussion. It may not be that kind of thing. We'll see.
It
Other
could even be like a Christmas gift or something.
right, like a fruit basket or something. Okay.
It's a new pair of tennis shoes.
Yeah,
They do a lot of walking.
yeah.
We can supply them with some of the gear, like those pickup sticks, or if they need anything, bags, whatever they do, and they're on their route.
Pepper spray.
Bear spray.
Pepper spray.
Any other agenda items that you guys want to tee up? All right,
No.
I don't see any, but you know where to find us. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.